Hey, what's up YouTube? This is We All Juggle Knives and you are at Multitool Monday. In this episode I'm going to talk about a theoretical or hypothetical multi-tool design, just my ideal multi-tool or one of them, something I'd like to see. As far as what tools would I want and how would I like to see them executed. Now in the comments section, feel free to share your idea for your perfect multi-tool. You know, you can list what tools that you would want, what tools you wouldn't want on it. Just go crazy with your imagination, because who knows, maybe one of these companies will see your comment and they'll actually make your perfect multi-tool. Now, one thing I would like to see in more multi-tools would be more bladeless designs. It's very difficult for the blade that you can fit in a multi-tool handle, which has to be narrow. It's really hard for a multi-tool blade to compete with a lot of the folding knives out there, right? When you compare the blade on a multi-tool to the blade on a really nice folding knife like this Microtech, you start thinking, you know, maybe I'll just carry a separate folding knife. Most of my viewers carry a separate folding knife. They're knife people, knife enthusiasts. The folding knife market and industry has grown hugely in the last few years. There's just so many good options for folding knives. Whether you want to go expensive or not expensive, you can get some great folders. So I would like to see more bladeless multi-tool designs, and you know, Leatherman has already gone in this direction with their bladeless rebar. If you don't know, Leatherman has a rebar with no blades. They've replaced the blades with scissors. So yeah, my ideal multi-tool, or at least one of them, would have no knife blades on it. And just to review multi-tool design, you know, most multi-tools have 4 slots for the longer tools, right? So for example, that Leatherman Charge. The Charge has a serrated blade, a plain edge blade, a metal file, and a wood saw in its 4 longer slots, right? So if we remove those 2 blades, we could put those scissors back in one of the longer slots and give you better scissors, right? So far we have a wood saw, a metal file, and scissors. What would I put in the 4th longer slot on my little hypothetical multi-tool? This is what I would put in the 4th slot for my multi-tool. I think Gerber is really onto something with the bit driver on their center drive. It's got one-handed opening, it locks, and because it's centered, right, you can apply a bit more force easily, right? So my ideal multi-tool would have the file, the saw, scissors, and the center drive style bit driver for the 4 longer slots. Just so you can visualize it better, it would have those 4 tools. Imagine the scissors were moved up and longer. For the file and the saw, I do think Leatherman is really onto something with the blade exchanger, or tool exchanger I should say, on their Surge, this thing right here. So for the file and the saw, I think they should be easily removable. I think they should have tool exchangers at their base so you can easily replace them, because both of those tools wear out. I think the tool exchangers should also come with more options for what you can put in there. Mine would come with 4, right? The regular saw, and then a carbide hacksaw, that's what that is, and then the file, and then a scalpel type blade. So yeah, the tool exchanger would have at least 4 options, and because you have 2 tool exchangers on the tool itself, right, you could pick which 2 of those 4 you use the most, and you could have them always in there, and then the 2 extra you could just carry in the sheath. Now, if you get rid of the blades, why would you have the scalpel as an option? A scalpel cuts way differently than a folding knife because it's thinner. It's so thin. Because even though this is ultra sharp, once you get a little bit back from the edge, it's just way thicker. It's just way thicker than a scalpel, right? That's usually, that multi-tool is for hunters. So they're using it for skinning. So where are we now? Okay, we've got the center drive bit driver. We've got two tool exchangers with 4 different options for what to put in them. Right, and we've got longer scissors. Speaking of scissors, there's a lot of different ways to put scissors on the multi-tool. You got like little tiny ones on the charge, you have the larger ones with one-handed opening on the surge, and you have what's basically shears. And I gotta say, I favor the shears. Like, I would like some really big, powerful shears on my multi-tool, you know, in the scissors or scissor cutting slot. Regarding scissors, you see that these shears are much larger than the Surge's scissors. However, they're not longer. Like, the entire length of the Surge's scissors is longer, and that is because half of the length is the handles, right, and half is the blades. I would increase the length of the blades to be almost the length of the whole tool. Right, so if you did that, then where would the handle go? Well, the handle would have to fold out to the side like that, like on this. Now, they couldn't make it as wide as this because, you know, this would not fold in to that handle. But they could make it the same idea, right, with a handle that folds to the side so they could increase the length of the blades. Right, so it would be something like the shears on this. However, again, because this is wide, you couldn't fold this into that because it's too wide. So they'd have to make it narrow, but they could make the blades longer. Right, now obviously, some really smart engineer would have to hammer out the mathematical details and do the blueprints. Right, but my basic idea is that I would want like some nice shears on my multi-tool. Another thing I would like to see is a hammer surface on the multi-tool. Now, the Leatherman Mutt and the Leatherman Signal, they both have a hammer surface right at the bottom of the tool. Kind of like on this Skeletal, you see this carabiner? If you could imagine that instead of this thing, it was a little flat, solid surface to hammer with. That's what they have on the Leatherman Signal. If you needed to smash on a window, if you needed a self-defense impact surface, or just to hammer little things, right? So yeah, definitely the hammer surface from the Signal at the bottom of the tool. Now also, again, if you imagine this was the little hammer surface, because it's kind of L-shaped, maybe they could put a little bit of a pry bar head at the end so you could get it under things and kind of get a little prying action too. Just a thought. And one more cutting tool I think they should include simply because it would take up virtually no space and would be convenient. I think they should put a little cutter like this. As you can see here, the bit driver already sticks up a bit, so you're not going to be adding any extra thickness if you put this very thin blade right there and then had a housing, a very compact housing that would just be like kind of like a handle scale, and then a little switch to push this out, right? So you would always have a little cutter. You might want to orient it this way, but you would always have a little box cutter. To me, that makes a lot more sense, putting something like this on a multi-tool rather than trying to fit a knife blade. Right, because this does not compete with a knife blade. A conventional knife blade has a belly with a curve to it, right, and it's a slicer, right, whereas this, it's a draw cutter primarily, and it's also super thin, which makes it a lot better for certain tasks. You know, this is just a lot more practical than trying to fit the full-size knife blade because, well, first of all, these are replaceable. And if you went to an airport or something, you could remove the whole blade temporarily. And because it's just a simple slide, you would not have to unfold it. Be very convenient. Now that takes care of the longer tool slots. What would I like to see in these smaller tool slots? Well, Leatherman has a combo opener, so if you need the traditional can and bottle opener, like one combo opener, right? And I like the awl, you know, which you can also use as a reamer, right? So the awl, the combo opener, and I do think that Gerber is onto something with this little pry tool with a nail puller, because since we're using a bit driver, you no longer have a dedicated screwdriver that you could use as a makeshift pry tool. So that makes, right, a dedicated pry tool a little more useful. Now remember, these are all just theories and ideas. These companies would have to have the engineers come out and actually figure out all the dimensions to fit all this, right, efficiently. Hey, that's what engineers are for. That's why they go to school and get paid the big bucks, and that's why these large companies employ them, right? I'm glad I don't have to do that job. This is an easy job, just sitting around fantasizing about what you would want. That's probably why myself and my subscribers enjoy doing it. To summarize our tool, where are we? Okay, it's got 4 slots for longer tools, which have the center drive, bit driver, a file and a saw, but they have the surge tool exchangers so that you could also mix and match a hacksaw or a scalpel for either of those two. And the 4th slot is scissors, or should I say shears. It cuts with a scissoring motion, correct? So some big shears, almost like on that Schrade tool. I would take the hammer surface from the Leatherman Signal and Mutt, and I would put it at the bottom of the tool, you know, where the carabiner on that Skele-tool is. And I would fit a small box cutter in a handle scale, right? So you could also remove that if you wanted to, if you had to go to an airport, you could just pull that blade out. And for the smaller tools, a combo opener, an awl, and a little pry bar nail pull. And again, because I'm not the engineer, I don't know how much space they would have for more small tools. They might have room for more, so if they did, you could brainstorm with what extra smaller tools you would want on it. And one more thing, I don't know if this would even be possible. I don't know if there's room, but if it were possible, if they could include the SOG compound leverage system, would that even be possible? I guess they'd have to put it behind those pivots, because this allows for one-handed opening and smooth opening, and it multiplies your force. So yeah, they'd have to hire a really smart person to try to fit that in there. I don't know if that's possible, but hey, we can dream. So if that's possible, to allow one-handed opening of the pliers, maybe they could put that in there. Okay, YouTube, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. You know, this was just for fun. And you can list your own designs in the comments section. I'm curious to hear about those because I have some subscribers that are machinists, engineers, you know, people who know a lot about this stuff. They probably have some better ideas. I hope you enjoyed this Multi-Tool Monday. Now, in the text description box, I'm just going to have a listing of different multi-tools you can browse. Hey, treat yourself. So try to utilize those links if you enjoy the channel. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.